Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be going over all of the books that I read in March. I feel like I'm a little bit behind on filming this video, but you know, we're doing it finally at the very least. So I have all of my books already sort of categorized out on this cutie little bench that I recently got next to me. I decided it would be kind of fun just to go through the list of books in ascending order for what I ranked them. So that's kind of how I've started doing it. So first up, my DNFs for the month. I was hoping to get through a month without some, but apparently that's just not going to be the case anytime soon. The first DNF is The Marsh King's Daughter. This is supposed to be a thriller book about a woman who was the product of an abduction and assault on her mother, and then she grew up in the marsh with her mother and her father, having really no concept of their living circumstances, at least for the beginning part of her life. Eventually, she is responsible for her father being captured, going to prison. She creates this new life with a husband and two of her own children, and her husband has no idea that this is her past. And then her father ends up breaking out of prison, and she takes it upon herself to sort of try to track him down because she knows all of his tricks of the trade pretty much for living in the marsh and surviving and escaping people. It should have been really thrilling, but like I was really bored reading through it. I also didn't appreciate the outlook that she had on her mom. She was so rude about her memories for her mother. And like I get when she was growing up, she didn't really understand the circumstances. So a mother who is kind of closed off and not very receptive of love or anything like that towards her young daughter would be a problem, but she's looking back as an adult who has allegedly gone to therapy and understands how wrong these circumstances were, and she still doesn't have any empathy, any respect for her mom, and that really bothered me a lot. So I eventually just gave up on it. I was also, like I said, very bored, which was a problem. Then I DNF'd Give Me Your Hand. I did not make it very far into this, I'll be honest. I read this shortly after Sharp Objects in a reading vlog. It was like trying to read a thriller a day. It's also when I was reading The Marsh King's Daughter, and this one just started bringing up topics that I didn't want to read about anymore, like very heavy sexualization of young girls, just because we're using that as the reason for their trauma, and I guess to try to justify some of the behavior choices that they make. And while that can be a very realistic reason or realistic past for a lot of women, there is also a lot of trauma that doesn't stem from that type of assault. I also don't really need to read about it. You can tell me that this happened without reading about it. It just, like, it was getting old that was what we kept using as the through line for these stories. I also was extremely bored reading this, so that was another reason that I decided to give that one up. Then a DNF that I don't have a physical copy of is going to be The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. This is supposed to be like a sports romance, a very, very slow burn. She was this famous football player's assistant and eventually tells him, listen, I'm leaving. Like, I don't like the way that you treat me. I don't like the way you treat other people. And I also want to go into business for myself. So yeah, peace, I'm done. And eventually he comes back, I think, and like begs her to work for him again. And it's supposed to be this romance between them. And like, it wasn't even the slow burn aspect of it. It was just, he was mean. Like, he was flat out mean. Like, there was no justifying the way that he acted, even if you call it a grumpy sunshine. Like, he was just cruel to her for no good reason. There was no chemistry between the two of them. I could not stand the internal monologue going on with the main female character. She drove me nuts as well. Like, just the way that the story was told through the internal monologue just didn't make sense. Like, we would go on pages of sort of tangents from what was going on to explain something, and then we'd come back to the present, but it was all done in her mind. Like, she was thinking through everything. I didn't vibe with it. Did not enjoy it at all. So yeah, that was it. That was also a DNF. Then moving into my 2-star reads, we have Bait on a Hook. This is actually like a 2.5-star read. This wasn't bad. It just, I don't know. It was kind of a little boring, a little bit boring. It's definitely set in an older style of writing. I forget when this was published, so that definitely plays into it. 1983. So older style of writing mystery stories where you're just kind of along for the ride. There's nothing overly thrilling about them. This one was a little bit just a little bit too difficult to swallow as being probable. It's about, oh god, I struggle to explain this storyline so much. This guy is sort of dating a nanny, and the nanny is responsible for one young girl whose mother and father are no longer together. They separated when the little girl was very, very young, so she doesn't even remember her father. And there's always been this concern that the father is going to try to take custody of his daughter back again due to the tenuous relationship that he has with the mother. Mom leaves one night to go, I forget where she's going, and the nanny is supposed to be watching this little girl at home, just the two of them. The guy comes over because, like I said, they're dating, and this gives him a chance to see her without anybody around. And while he's there, they think somebody ends up getting shot. Turns out that it's the little girl's father, and they believe that he came over to abduct her and interrupted a burglary. It just, yeah, very convoluted, ridiculous plot. And then this little girl who's like 8 years old, I think, ends up conning her way into trying to assist on solving this crime. So her and the main male character are just on the run trying to solve this crime, and she keeps going, well, I'm gonna tell him you did this if you don't bring me with you. And like, it's just an absolutely absurd set of circumstances that was going on in this book that yeah. So that's why it's like a 2.5 star read. It just was a little bit too hard to buy into. Then we have like my 3.5 star reads. I have a much more decent stack of this, which is not surprising. This is normally like one of my larger stacks because it's just, they're good books. They're nothing absolutely extraordinary, but I would recommend them to people. So that's what my 3-star reads are. My Mary Higgins Clark was All by Myself Alone. This is set on a cruise ship where a woman has come aboard with like this famous necklace that everybody says if you go to sea with it, you're gonna end up dying, other people around you are gonna end up dying, and lo and behold, the woman who brings this necklace onto the ship does in fact end up dying. The necklace goes missing, and they're trying to figure out who has this necklace. Lots of different characters in here. She loves throwing in a ton of different people, but I actually think it worked in this one. Like, I wasn't super confused. I didn't know who was most likely responsible for this, and I just had like a good time reading through it. Hers are normally 3-star reads for me. They're just kind of like cozy mysteries. Then we have Agatha Christie Towards Zero. This was supposed to be my February Agatha Christie, and I never got to it, so obviously I needed to read it in March. And I honestly don't remember a ton about this one, like at all. I know it was supposed to, I think the whole premise of it was that the murder happens very, very late in the story, and you were just learning different things about different people's lives leading up to it, and you're like, what does this have anything to do with this eventual murder? And then once you get to it, you can kind of see the way things weave together, but like as you're reading, you're like, I feel like I'm just reading nonsense, like extraneous information. What are we doing? So it was interesting the way that it worked itself together, but like I said, I don't really remember any of the plots for this, so maybe 3 stars a little too high. Not sure. Then we have Sharp Objects. I hesitated to give this 3 stars. I just, like I said before, didn't enjoy the way this sexualized young girls. Like, it was rough. There was so much of it in this, and not even like in a past timeline where it was supposed to explain somebody's present day demeanor. It was also talking about the way that the town is responsible for making these young girls sort of start acting like adults way earlier than they should as a popularity thing. And I don't know, I was struggling with this. But anyway, this is supposed to be about a woman who goes back to her hometown as a journalist because very, very little girls are going missing and turning up dead. And she's supposed to be writing a story about this, but due to her past in the town, she starts getting wrapped up in a bunch of issues and just starts struggling a lot with herself due to being back home and being around these people that are very toxic for her. So it was interesting in the way that it worked out. Like, I did kind of guess some of the twists that were in here. I don't know, it's really hard for me to read this. Like, I guess if you're okay with some of the content in here, I can see why people love it, but it was just a little too much for me. Then we had the Book of Mirrors. This is the last one that would have been in that reading vlog that I mentioned. This one is about, it's like, the premise starts with a manuscript that is sent into a publisher that goes over the events from years prior when they're at this college, and the author of the manuscript starts talking about his relationship with the protege of a famous professor there. The protege and the professor are both psychology professors, educators, and the professor actually ends up murdered. And the manuscript kind of hints that the author knows what had happened to the professor, and then just ends abruptly. And the publisher is determined to figure out where the rest of this manuscript is, what he was hinting at, who was responsible for this crime. The way that everything was pieced together was really fun and really unique, and I didn't actually guess who was responsible for this. A lot of unreliable narrators in here, and a focus on memory and mental health and the way that can affect people's perceptions of others and their ability to sort of interact with crimes because they're much more likely to be suspects then. It was a unique premise, and I did enjoy that one. And then lastly, in this category, this is like a 3.5-star read. It's The Dagger and the Flame. This is set in a fantasy world where there's pretty much two crime syndicates, the Daggers and the Cloaks and the Daggers. The Cloaks and the Daggers were founded actually by two brothers that figured out how to use something called shade as a sort of magical property, and the Cloaks use it to create these garments that allow them to blend into shadow and nobody can see them. So they're famous for thieving. And then the Daggers actually ingest shade, and it gives them this sort of like killing ability where if they touch somebody skin to skin, they can kill them within 10 seconds. So, or like 10 breaths, it keeps saying. So they are the assassins in this world. The main female character, her mother was killed by one of these groups, and she goes to the Cloaks for safety. She was always told to run to them if she needed to. So now she's joined them, and she's determined to fight back against the other group for what had happened to her mother. She ends up learning all of these crazy things that sort of led up to her mother's demise, and is now fighting another like terrible evil in this world. I enjoyed it. It wasn't anything super special, which is why it's only a 3.5-star read. It's good enough that I'm going to continue through the series, but I was getting a little bit frustrated at the end with some of the decisions that these characters are making. But I did enjoy it enough that I'm going to read the next one. I'm curious to see where this world goes from here. Then moving into my 4-star reads. First up, we have Why Didn't They Ask Evans by Agatha Christie. This was my intended Agatha Christie for the month. And this is about a man who falls to his death on a golf course, which is very weird, very unusual. And some of the people that are on the golf course end up finding him and hearing him say, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" as his famous last words. And they decide they're going to figure out like why this guy ended up dead and what led up to it and how Evans connects to it. And just the crazy storyline, the crazy shenanigans that these characters got into while trying to solve this was really fun and really just twisty-turny. I didn't have a guess for who was responsible for this. I had a really good time reading this. Then we have Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. It kind of pains me to put this here because the rest of the series so far has been a 5-star read, but I had heard a lot of people say that this is maybe one of their least favorite books in the series. This is actually the beginning to like the second arc of Red Rising, so you have the original trilogy, and then Pierce Brown actually came back, wrote another trilogy. There's a 4th book coming out, I think this year, maybe, hopefully, and this is the beginning to that. So it's set years after the events of the Red Rising trilogy. I can't talk too much about the plot for this because it would obviously give away things for the original storyline, and I don't want to do that because I love this series so much. Rating this a 4-star does not mean that I didn't enjoy this in comparison to the others. It just, you know, this one was a lot heavier on world building and establishing where this new timeline is going to go. I liked that this had some new POVs. You really didn't get that in the other stories, and I appreciated that, but I was struggling a little bit with some of the choices that characters made in here. They just, I don't know, I think they made sense because it was very realistic, I think, to the reality of fighting a war for so long and the positions that some of these people were in and the way that that can affect your decision making and everything. But like, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit here screaming at them going, "Why are you doing this? Please, please stop." Like, So very excited to continue through that series now that I've started that again. Then I finally read The Will of the Many. This was also supposed to be a February book. I think I'd started in February and just wasn't able to finish it because this took a while. This took a very long while, and that's not to say that I didn't enjoy this one either. It's just this is definitely one of those books where your brain really, really needs to be turned on, and if it can't be, you are going to struggle to get through this. So I did this in little spurts, and it just took me a little to kind of understand the magic system and the way that everything builds in this story. I did end up really enjoying it. I've been told before that the way the plot structure goes is very reminiscent of Red Rising, and I can actually see that for sure, but it has like its own individuality as well. The magic system is obviously completely different in this, and the way that the plot beats work later on in the story, there's some stuff that was not even close to being similar to Red Rising. Some wild turns in here, wild things that were happening, and I can't wait to see where that it goes in the second book, because some of this is just kind of disturbing, actually. So yeah, really enjoyed that one. So that's a 4-star read. And then my last 4-star, maybe even like a 4.5, is going to be Nocticadia. If you are looking for a gothic, creepy, good time, it's definitely going to be this book. This is set on an island known for hosting Dracadia University, which is a university that specializes in a couple different things, to include medical research, like scientific research. The female character in here, her mom had passed away a few years prior, related to this very weird illness, and nobody really believes her when she says what happened to her mom. They all say that she's imagining it, and eventually somebody reads one of her papers and is like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, this is an illness that Dracadia University studies. I can help get you into the university. So she goes to learn more about this illness and study it under the tutelage of Professor Bramwell. Everybody calls him Dr. Death, Daddy Bramwell. I adored him. It's great. The student-teacher relationship in here, if that's your thing, when they're of age, of course. Let's not get that twisted. She's over 18 in this. If that's your thing, you're going to eat this up. I loved their relationship so much. So much. He's fantastic. And the tension scenes, like the tension, the angst, just like the yearning between these two because they're not supposed to be there. It was fantastic. But aside from that, you get all of the creepy gothic vibes of being set on an island that is famous for being haunted by people and natives that had been killed over the course of centuries from people trying to develop the island. You get this really creepy illness that is actually like stomach turning, especially if you have an aversion to bugs and worms and creepy crawly things. Like, this is gonna be a lot for you, but like so good, so unique. I really enjoyed this. It had just a bunch of different elements for a gothic fiction that I think was done really, really well. I just realized that I actually forgot a 3.5, maybe even 4-star read, and that's going to be actually 3.5. It's definitely going to be 3.5, and that's The Enchanted Greenhouse. I listened to the audiobook for this. This is the second book in like a cozy fantasy series by Sarah Beth Durst. I forget what the first one is right now. I loved the first one, loved listening to the audiobook for it, so that's why I decided to read this one in that format. I enjoyed it. It's still very heavy on the cozy fantasy vibes. It's about this young woman who's actually mentioned in the first book. She had been a librarian and then had used magic when she wasn't allowed to. It's very against the law for non-magicians to practice magic. So she's actually turned into a statue in the first book, and you hear her constantly being referenced and stuff. In this book, she actually becomes human again. She's no longer a statue, and she wakes up on this island with an enchanted greenhouse on it, and the man that is taking care of this greenhouse, and that's about it. And she finds out the greenhouse is dying, and she has to make this decision on whether or not she's going to use magic to try to save the greenhouse. Like I said, very heavy on the cozy vibes. There's flying cats, there's tiny little dragons that guard a maze in the greenhouse. Very, very cute and cozy in that way. I rated this a little bit lower because I felt like the female character was kind of insufferable. She was a little bit irritating. The constant whining that she did in her internal monologue, the just rambling that she did in her internal monologue, she repeated things constantly, and she was always second-guessing absolutely everything. And it just got a little bit irritating after a while, I'll be honest. And then it did also feel like a lot of the character development between her and the main male character happened in her head, kind of. Like, you didn't they didn't interact that much because he was like kind of not grumpy, but like he was quiet and stoic, and like I just wanted a little bit more of their relationship to actually like to see that development rather than just like internal thoughts about how she felt about him. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, I completely forgot to mention that one because it's not physically in front of me. That happens all the time. Moving on into our 5-star reads. First up, we have Daughter in a World by Carissa Broadbent. I can't believe I haven't read this series before this. I can't wait to get to the next 2 books. I just have so many series that I'm in the middle of, like it's hard to just put everything down and read series, but like if I was going to do that for any, it would be this. If you enjoy the Poppy War series, but you're looking for something a little less heavy, a little less adult themed, I think this would be a great series for you. A lot of very similar topic points about war and how it can sometimes be necessary, and female rage, female empowerment, all of those things. It's beautiful and wonderful, and this follows specifically a female who was a slave growing up. She finally has enough money to buy her freedom from her master, and well, things just don't go as planned. She ends up running away and escaping and joining this group. I forget what they're called. They're called the Orders, and it's supposed to be the most powerful organization of magic wielders in the world. She starts an apprenticeship with, his name is Max, I can't ever pronounce his long name, Maxentarius, they just call him Max, and he is a handsome reclusive fire wielder who despises the Order. So she starts working with him to try to sort of catch up to everybody her age so that she can join the Order and go fight for her people. She makes some deals with the Order to get assistance that are just, once she realizes what she has promised to these people, it's really devastating and tragic and heartbreaking, and like I just can't imagine where the rest of this story is going to go for her, for Max. I love Max. I adore Max so much. Like the way that he is just so down bad for her, and he just can't help it. Like he knows he shouldn't be, but he is, and she drags him back into this life that he doesn't want to be a part of. I loved it. Like he was such a simp, and I will eat that up every time. And then she's just a badass, like absolutely. The way that she's willing to fight for her people, to go back and try to free all of these slaves, even though she knows that the deal that she's making is probably going to be harmful to herself, she's willing to do it because she wants to help her people that badly. So yeah, loved this so much. Then we have Tress of the Emerald Sea. I think I had started this one in February as well and just wasn't able to finish it. I listened to the audiobook, immediately went out and got the physical copy once I was done because I loved this so much. If you want to start Brandon Sanderson's world, but you're looking for something a little bit easier, a little bit more cozy, this is great. This is whimsy and ethereal and beautiful. Like, the magic system in here is so unique, just like most of Brandon Sanderson's books, but a little bit more easy to digest. And like I said, just the way that this story is written is adorable. It's about this young girl who grew up on an island that nobody's supposed to leave, and the love of her life is like the Duke's son, and he gets captured by this sorceress, and she goes, you know what? I'm saving him. I don't care if nobody else is going to save him. I don't care that I never left my island before. I'm figuring it out and I'm saving him. And you're just following this journey, and it's just, I loved it. I loved it so much. I actually will probably do a reread of this sometime this year because it was that great. And then lastly for the month, and in my 5-star category, we have We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark. This was my book club book for the month, and I'm so glad that we read this. Oh my god, the way that I flew through this book. It is inspired by the gladiator style games of the Roman Empire, which was so cool, but then you add in vampires, which made it even more cool. And the main female character in here, she is determined to save her younger brother who is sick and suffering from this illness. They have no money to try to fight back against it. A vampire comes to her and is like, hey, I can help you. I can get your brother the medicine, the treatment that he needs. All you need to do is kill somebody for me. Somebody that's pretty famous, actually. She's like, you're absolutely insane. I'm not doing this. Well, eventually she realizes that she doesn't have much of a choice. Her brother's going to die without it. So she joins the Sundering and is training to fight in these deadly games to see whether or not she can survive, while also trying to work her way up to fulfill this bargain that she has with the vampire. Being in the Sundering is part of that. It allows her access to this person, allows her the chance to join an elite group of warriors once she ends up making it out of the Sundering alive, if that be the case. There is a fantastic, like, I hesitate to say love triangle because nobody likes love triangles, but a great love triangle set up in this that I think we'll get to explore more in the second story. Very reminiscent of the love triangle in the Vampire Diaries. So if you guys loved like Stefan and Damon and you want that kind of setup, I think this is going to give you that very, very much. I loved it. I have one that I personally prefer. We'll see whether or not that ends up being the case. Lots of fast-paced action-packed moments in here because of these gladiator-style games. I think that's such a unique premise for Trials that we don't really see or haven't seen yet. Yeah, I love this. I ate it up. I read it so quickly, and I can't wait for the second one. So those are all of the books that I read in March. It's actually a decent stack now that I'm looking at all the books that are spread out on the ground around me. But yeah, it was a good reading month, and I can't wait to see what April brings for me. So that is the end of the video, which is good because the sun is going down and I can tell that the lighting is rapidly changing. So sorry about that. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.